All right, joining us now, Kellyanne Conway, former counselor to President Trump, Fox News contributor, and author of the excellent book, Here's the Deal. Kellyanne, there's constructive things I want to talk about, but I want to clear the air. I want to get this out of here. I don't understand what our former boss is doing. I love the guy, but I do not understand Kanye West hanging out with white nationalists, hanging out with anti-Semitic people, talking about ending the Constitution or postponing the Constitution. I don't get it. I don't know why he's saying it. And if he says it, why hasn't he given, apologized for it or corrected the record or something? Because he's losing support left and right. I hear it everywhere.
Look, for me, this one's easy. There is no place for a seat at the table, let alone in a polite American discourse, for the kind of white supremacy that this Nick Fuentes person who, like the president, I didn't know anything about him before either, but it took me about 10 seconds to figure him out once I needed to research him. And I'm very concerned that there isn't a system in place where the president isn't buttonholed into sitting across the table at Mar-a-Lago, where you and I have been many times, having dinner with him, Larry. A system in place where folks are vetted and then seated, and there are no surprises at the last moment because your guest is bringing another guest. Now, Kanye West came to the White House. You and I were there, although I did not go into the Oval Office for it. Jared Kushner brought him in under the guise of, I guess, criminal justice reform. And he came in, and they worked on that together, I suppose. But since then, he's had a very troubled and recent string of things that, again, are unequivocal in their intent, and they've only gotten worse. He is peddling anti-Semitic garbage, and there's no place for that. Do you know, here in New York City, the number of attacks on Jews is way up. The anti-Semitic hate is way up, and that's playing all across, obviously, the world and the country.
I'm just saying.
So that's easy, but again, he should completely distance himself from that. I think he said, I didn't know anything about this guy. I was trying to help Kanye West.
And I disagree with everything they say and stand for.
Of course. Now, we know that Donald Trump was the most pro-Israel president we've ever had.
Yes.
So let's be fair in that regard. I would like to hear more from his daughter, who's Jewish. I would like to hear more from his son-in-law, who's the only person from the administration, Larry, to benefit in the B's with billions. It'd be nice for them to weigh in when you and I are expected to. So let me just say that because no one else will. That aside, we know how pro-Israel he is and was. We know that he kept the promise of 7 presidents, including our hero Ronald Reagan, kept the promise of 7 presidents to move that embassy to Jerusalem and recognize it as the capital. Golan Heights, I think containing a nuclear-capable Iran that's now again salivating at Israel because of John Kerry and Joe Biden and the rest of them.
I had Netanyahu on last night talking about this.
Yes.
But he's got to make a statement, Kellyanne, and he's also... This business about suspending the Constitution because we learned there was, free speech finagling with Twitter. I mean, come on. You don't suspend the Constitution. And he's got to get off 2020. He just has to. He gave a good speech when he declared for president, although I think that was premature, but whatever, it was a pretty good speech. Since then, he's just gone into a ditch. He'll never climb out of it.
Gave a great speech late July to AFPI in Washington. It was very policy-focused, took 61 minutes to even mention the 2020 elections. So we know it's there. And look, I think elections are always about the future, not the past. People want presidential candidates, particularly a former president, Larry, that was successful on energy and economy and national security and border security and so many other issues. They want that person to talk about the people's grievances and not their own. I think what the president...
That's a key. What you just said is so
It's
true,
essential.
Kellyanne.
And Biden can't do it.
It's not a movement.
So we ought to be able to do it.
It's no longer a movement about populist grievances. It's his grievances. He's got to get off that and represent folks. What you just said is so important. And he needs to get that.
And I know the president knows this, and I know he had so many great accomplishments in that White House, and you were a big part of that, Larry. And if he stripped away everything else and just gave America a binary choice between their gas prices and supply chain and border security and physical and financial security, everyday affordability, and just your feeling of no chaos and crisis in Ukraine, at the border, in your own community, in your stock portfolio, if he would just make the case, life under me as president, life under Joe Biden as president. But things are never stripped away. They're very complicated.
You ran the 2016 campaign, and he was on message most of the time.
He was on message.
A good message.
And his message was great.
He
It was
hasn't been
his
on
message
in several years.
Look, I always say Donald Trump put me there as campaign manager. I complimented what he was already doing. He was the candidate. It was his name on the ballot along with Mike Pence. But he did have me me to go out there and be asked questions like this and answer them. I don't know who's doing that right now. So if you're waiting for a statement from the president, if I were there as the campaign manager, I'd be saying, the president distances himself from that. You know his record on Israel, his daughter's Jewish, his son-in-law, his grandchildren. Stop looking for trouble where you know it doesn't exist. But look, it's a long way until the election cycle, Larry, and the voters choose the nominees. The donors don't, the pundits don't, the TV anchors, the pollsters don't. But I think the president knows how to win. He's done it before. And I just want to say, the last time I was part of the president's political team was 2016. I'm highly critical in my book, Here's the Deal, the 2020 campaign.
No, you were.
But I lay it out methodically. It's not sour grapes. I'm not jealous of any of those failures. What I do is I say, this is how you win. This is how you lose. Let's get back to winning.
You and I right now, this moment, we are exercising what you call tough love. And you got to do that. And that's what it is. But he's got to make some very significant changes. All right, let me move on to something more constructive. One of the things these Senate races were all so close, okay? Trump's batting average was low, but the reality is they were very, very close races, could have gone either way. So I'm suggesting, and get your thought on this, you're looking for a new chair of the Republican National Committee. We need a technician who will teach the GOP election, mail-in balloting and harvesting. The Democrats have beaten us to it in the last several elections. GOP's got to get it and do it and beat them at their own game because it's costing us elections. What do you think?
Sure. Well, first of all, Ronna McDaniels, the RNC chair, is the odds-on favorite to get reelected. Others have thrown their hat in the ring, and they have every right to. But remember who votes for the RNC chair, Larry. It's the 168. It's the national committee men and committee women from each state, and then another representative in the state and the territories.
I need a technician.
I say this just because,
I need a Haley Barber.
Sure,
I need a Ray Bliss going back 40 years. Seriously.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I want to say is on election integrity, the RNC spent millions and millions of dollars on that, filing lawsuits, getting clarity in some of these states. What we need to do as a party, though, is bank these ballots early. There's no question. If this is the new normal, and I don't like it, I doubt you do.
No, I don't either.
That we have more people voting in more ways over more time than ever before. There's no such thing as election day anymore. It's election season, election trimester. You're voting a month early. We're counting your ballots 2 weeks later in a place like Arizona. That's craziness. But if that is the fact, then we have to live under the rules that exist. We have to be ultra crystal clear to people. We want your vote early. As I like to say, you're taking a chance Grandpa can get out of the bathroom, let alone the house, into the polling place on Election Day. I want his vote in September and October.
Yeah.
Put it in there. When you look at Fetterman, when you look at Katie Hobbs, when you look at Mark Kelly, when you look at a bunch of these races, the early vote was banked so much in their favor, it was almost impossible to make it up on election day.
These were razor thin. Adam Laxalt, razor thin, could have gone the other way.
Of course.
You're so totally
But that's not a messaging issue. Hey, Larry, that's not a messaging issue.
I don't think it's a message.
And it's not a messenger.
I think it's a technocratic
It's a delivery.
issue.
And delivery is not, are you wearing a blue tie or red dress? Do you have the flag behind you? Delivery is a system. We communicate with you where you already receive credible, actionable communications, and we become a resource to you on how to vote and where.
I want a technician who will teach the GOP the new election.
But Larry, will they listen? Because
That's
let me tell you
all.
something. I'm a huge proponent, vocal, of investing in what I call the non-sexy parts of politics like this, ballot access.
We're running it. Kellyanne Conway.